Welcome to Lesson 2 of Writing Accessible HTML. This lesson is going to focus on the external environment and how it relates to issues of accessibility and HTML content. Included in this discussion of the external environment are the inventor of the World Wide Web, the population of persons in the United States who reported having a disability as of the 2010 census, forthcoming changes in legislation that are applicable to the topic, the increase in litigation over accessibility issues, and opportunities in the job market regarding accessibility. And before we get started, let's have a few first steps to discuss with you briefly, things that will help you understand the importance of accessibility from a larger context. First, to do some research on the legal aspects of web accessibility, legal cases, pending or completed litigation, regulations, and laws about the topic, just to give yourself an idea of where the legal environment is in relationship to web accessibility. Second, to look into the job market demand for web accessibility specialists, job openings, job descriptions, duties that are being requested or desired, skill sets that are being looked for or sought out by hiring managers. And just to find yourself at least one example of each, but to engage yourself in a research process to gain a larger understanding of web accessibility than simply the steps of changing tags in HTML code and changing the structure of a document for a web page. So to start off, I'm going to just show you a slide here of the inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Timothy Berners-Lee. And he said, "The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect." So he invented all of the major technologies that are the foundation of the World Wide Web. So that would begin with HTML, the language itself that comprises an HTML document, which is a web page. He invented the hypertext transfer protocol, which is the method by which web browsers and web servers communicate. For that matter, he invented the first web browser, the first web server, and the method by which we look up web addresses, the Uniform Resource Identifier, or URL, Uniform Resource Locator, which we just call a web address. So he invented all those technologies for the exchange of meaningful information, as we discussed in Lesson 1, which is HTML. And his perspective is that medium of communication, the World Wide Web, the intent was that everyone could use it, regardless of any disability, disabling condition, or situation in which they find themselves. Now, according to the U.S. Census Bureau's 2010 study, nearly 57 million people have a disability, with over 38 million of those reporting a severe disability, and more than 12 million requiring assistance to engage in normal daily functions such as eating, bathing, etc. So if you look at that middle number, 38.3, with a population of approximately 330 million people in the United States, 38.3 would constitute more than 1 in 10 persons in the United States with a severe disability, as self-reported, of course. But it's not just people with disabilities or disabling conditions that can benefit from accessible web content. Accessibility also can apply in context of the situation in which a person finds themselves. For example, if you are in a library and you are watching a video and silence is required, if captions are on that video, even though you may have perfect hearing, captions will help you access the content of that video in an environment where the situation calls for silence, even if you don't have a physically disabling condition. Accessibility provides better overall usability, better access for search engines to index content and make it searchable and usable, more usable information, and more compliant and cross-browser compatible content. So there's a lot of improvements and benefits of accessible web content beyond that of serving those with disabilities. Now, the legal environment of web accessibility, just to discuss briefly, there are a number of agencies that are involved directly with the creation of regulations and the enforcement of those laws and regulations. And those agencies would be such like the Department of Justice, a federal agency, the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Education, and the Federal Communications Commission. Now, all of these agencies are finalizing their legal positions, and the intent was to have them done by January 2018. regarding web accessibility and the potential results of organizations not moving towards compliance with Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0 AA, which is the standard being used by these aforementioned agencies, are complaints of discrimination brought by the Office of Civil Rights for failing to provide an equal experience under Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. Now further, according to the Section 508 website, persons with the skills to test the accessibility and or compliance of web content are a requirement and cannot be replaced by automated testing systems or software. So what that basically means is you can use an automated evaluation tool to scan your content and give you a list of things to begin to look at and to begin to test manually and to look at fixing manually. And so automated evaluation tools can help you be pointed in the right direction and give you a workflow and a list of things to look at for resolution. But you cannot replace manual testing with a tool. You have to have both, and manual testing is always necessary. Now, litigation over web accessibility issues has been steadily increasing over the last several years. Chances of being brought to court for not providing a fully accessible WCAG 2.0 AA compliant experience for website visitors becomes more likely with each passing day. Now, I used the acronym WCAG as a short mention of Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. In the industry, it's just called WCAG 2.0 AA. So this was a study that was done, you can see, between 2013 and 2016. Litigation over federal court over ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, Title III web accessibility issues more than doubled. So there's certainly an increase in these types of issues being brought to the courts for resolution. Now, on the bright side of this issue is a study that was done by WebAIM, Web Accessibility in Mind, in 2014, which shows that there is a lack of trained, knowledgeable web accessibility specialists in the market. This lack of available skills in the marketplace indicates that job opportunities for those trained and experienced in how to write accessible HTML will continually improve for the foreseeable future. If you look at the numbers here displayed, you can see that over 72% of respondents indicated that lack of awareness and lack of skills or knowledge of web accessibility is the primary reason that many sites and applications are not made to be accessible, which would indicate that if you were to learn and become more aware of the skills, knowledge needed in order to resolve web accessibility issues, that you would be a very marketable person as far as jobs are concerned or consulting would be concerned, something very beneficial to you. So the intent of this lesson has been to give you a broad view of many of the reasons why accessible HTML and accessible web content is important. So I invite you to think about this, do some research on the legal environment and the job opportunities available, and consider those as you move on to lesson 3.